On a bright sunny day, one of the first things I do is when I'm surveying the scene, I look for natural reflectors. And what that means is I want a very large, light-colored, neutral surface that light is hitting. So in the instance we have here, I have kind of a stone walkway or stone floor that is illuminated directly by the sun. And what that's going to do when the sun hits it is it creates a very large light source. And so let's say it's the side of a large white building. Now that white building is like a massive white reflector, or kind of like a big white softbox, and it's filling in all that light. This is really, really flattering for female portraits in particular because it will give you even frontal lighting, a lot of intensity. So I will look around a scene, I'll try to find where there's a natural reflector like we have here on the floor, and then you place your subject opposite that reflector. So you don't want the reflector behind them like it is to me. You want it so it's kicking light back towards their face. The next thing you have to consider is if they're standing in the sun, like I am with that reflector, it doesn't do any good. It's still going to have really bright highlights from the sun hitting my face with a little bit of reflection. So what I want to do is I step them back into the shade, and then it's like I have a 100-foot long neutral colored reflector bouncing light back in. It's even, it's very flattering, it's very beautiful. So I'm going to take a couple shots to show you how I would use a natural reflector. In this instance it is on the floor, but I always am looking for the white, maybe a white moving van or a large white side of a building or a poster or something like that to act as a natural reflector. So first I'm going to have you step out into the sun. And chin down, look right at me, good. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to have you back up into the shade, and I'm going to stand her right there on the edge of the shade and shoot a very similar shot. I'm going to shoot really tight in this one so you'll be able to see the catch lights in her eyes. So if we zoom into the catch lights in this image, you will actually be able to see the reflection of that floor. Typically, let's say if you have a reflector reflecting from underneath or above, you'll see that bright highlight from the reflector. Well, now it is a massive floor, so she has really big, large, beautiful catch lights. I'm going to shoot a couple more of those. Good. As I'm shooting here, I'm making sure that the background behind her is a little bit in shade, or at least not in direct sunlight. Because since she is in shade, it's darker on her. I'm going to have to open up my exposure, so expose for her, which if the background is already in sunlight, it'll overexpose and create really distracting highlights. So I'm angling as much as I can to put somewhat darker foliage behind her, or maybe one of the posts that is in shade. I'm just avoiding anything that's in direct sunlight. Okay. The next thing is if I want just really even frontal light, I will face her directly towards this reflection. So right there is perfect. This is going to be completely even light, very kind of glowing on the face, chin down a little. Good, lean way forward for me and chin down, good, beautiful. I'm having her lean down towards me so that when she leans down, the closest thing to the camera is her eyes, so it'll look really big and beautiful. That's great, one more time. Beautiful. So you'll be able to see the floor as the catch light in her eye. The other thing that I can do, instead of having everything from the front and even, if I move around to the side, I can now give split light or maybe Rembrandt light. So instead of shooting from here and it will be flat, if I come around towards here, now the light has a little bit more shape and direction because it's not just coming straight from below. So if I shoot from here, you'll see that there's a little more shape to the light on her face. Beautiful. Great. Right there, perfect. And now eyes at me. Great. And you'll see the same thing. The catch lights in her eyes are the light source. Now instead of being centered and below, will actually be off to the side. So I can use natural reflectors to give big, diffuse, glowing light sources, which is great for portraits of women in particular, but it's really convenient. Let's say you have a group of people and you have a reflector out there and you're trying to evenly illuminate the entire group. It's going to be difficult unless you have a very large reflector and stand really far back. In an instance like this, I have a couple 100 feet of reflection. So if I can put my subjects in the shade, use that natural reflector, it makes my job easier. So next time you're on location in a bright, sunny day, trying to conquer that midday light, look for shade and a large natural reflector to fill in the light on the face. How many of you would look at this scene and think, wow, that large rock in the middle of Central Park is a great source of light? Well, I do. When you look at it, it's neutral, it's large, and it's illuminated by the sun. So what that means is when the sun hits it, it's going to kick back at my subject and provide a nice, even, glowing illumination. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for sidewalks that are neutral lit with light. I'm looking for side of building or even a large rock in Central Park. So let me take a shot with her facing away from that light source. She's in the direct midday sunlight. It's really harsh and unflattering. Good, chin down for me. Good, beautiful. So you see it's really blown out, really unflattering light. Let me take one more of those. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around on the other side. I'm going to face her towards that light source, that big, soft, even light source, that large reflector, and photograph her that way. The light is going to be even and glowing. So I'm going to run up there now. I've climbed up here on the rock. I've had her face towards me, so now that sun is at the back of her head. It's a nice glowing light on her hair, so it looks very angelic. It's very flattering. And now, previously, if there was no rock here, it would be kind of flat light. There wouldn't be any illumination unless I added my own reflector or found some sort of light source. But right now, this large neutral colored rock is kicking light back into her eyes. And so if you look at the catch lights in her eyes, they're going to be really, really large, even reflectors because it is the rock. So I'm going to take a couple shots of that. And chin down for me just a little. Beautiful. Now what's great is, particularly with this shot, I have it framed so there's a shadow behind her head. So her hair and the highlights on her hair glows even more. Versus if I move over a few steps to the left, I can actually put lit grass behind her and it's not as flattering. So what I prefer to do is to shoot so there's a dark background behind her, nice halo around her head, and exposed for her face. So those highlights on her hair might overexpose just a bit, but the quality of light on her face is beautiful.